A city burns as a young man named Derek gets his call to action. His ally, Sylvie, lays out the high-stakes rescue mission. Derek casually dismisses her warnings with a drink. He leaps from the building, ready for another day at the office. He lands with a smirk, reminding her he's the hero here. Power surges through him as he prepares for a simple in-and-out job. Sylvie, however, is not impressed by his charming arrogance. With a surge of purple energy, she tears open a gateway. Derek armors up, lightning crackling as he readies for the fight. He steps into the void, confident he'll be back in time for dinner. But on the other side, only fire, ash, and failure await him. The mission was a catastrophic trap, a battle against impossible odds. Derek stares in horror, wondering how it all went so wrong. Surrounded by monsters, he desperately protects a fallen comrade. Years later, the memory of that day still echoes in the darkness. An older, scarred Derek reflects on what was meant to be a simple mission. He laments his old habit of trying to play the hero. In the memory, his team is overrun, screaming for him to escape. They were forced to choose between saving themselves or their friends. He truly believed he was strong enough to save them all. Young Derek carves a path, determined to rescue one last person. His older self can only look back on that foolish hope with regret. He reaches a wounded soldier, promising a way out of the inferno. Supporting his friend, he pushes toward the shrinking portal. But the promise of safety was a lie he told them both. In a flash of violence, his comrade is torn away from him. Derek can only watch, his world shattering in an instant. He turns to see his only escape route about to vanish forever. The narrator seethes with regret, questioning his own actions. With no other choice, Derek makes a final desperate sprint for the light. He screams in defiance, refusing to accept his fate. His hand pushes through, grasping for a world now lost. But the gateway slams shut, severing his only connection. In that instant, his entire world shatters. He stares at what's left, unable to process the loss. Trapped in the void, with nothing but the echo of his failure, the memory jolts the older Derek awake, gasping for air. He collapses, lost in a sea of self-blame and regret. Was it his weakness, or was he betrayed from the start? He dismisses the thought, clinging to his weapon for comfort. He tells himself his allies are still searching for him. He waits for a rescue that will never, ever arrive. Even the marks he carves into this prison fade away. Turns out endless solitude is great for a training montage. He hones his skills, his weapon an extension of his will, meditating, practicing, training, anything to keep from breaking, all driven by the faint hope of one day seeing the sun again. But then, after an eternity, something finally changes. A strange alert pierces the silence of his exile. A system error flashes before his eyes. The host is moving out of range, it warns him. He panics, realizing his powers are tied to this system. The connection is failing. His only lifeline is being cut. And just like that, the system connection is lost. He begs, pleading not to lose the one thing he has left. He rages against his prison, but the void is unbreakable. His own vitality now turns against him in constant agony. The cracks in his sanity grow wider with each passing moment, but the prison around him remains perfectly whole. Finally, after ages of struggle, he simply gives up. He let himself slip quietly into the darkness, but after an eternity, the void finally called back. He looks up, startled from his long despair, and for the first time in ages, he answered. A sound echoes through the nothingness, a crack. He wonders if his mind has finally broken, but the reflection in his eye tells him it's real. A fissure in his prison, and it's not closing. A surge of power reignites his will to escape. He doesn't care where the path leads. He strikes the crack with all his might. Anything is better than remaining in this hell. But something is waiting for him on the other side. A powerful blast throws him back violently, his one chance for freedom met with pure force. Well, that definitely didn't feel like a hallucination. A monstrous creature roars from beyond the breach. He notes its greeting is a little aggressive. The beast's eyes glow with malevolent intent, so Derek decides to teach it some manners. Besides, he's curious to test his systemless strength. He launches himself at the beast, ready for battle. The two forces collide in a storm of energy. He weaves through its attacks, barely staying ahead. But the creature's power is overwhelming. He's thrown back, the impact rattling his armor. The monster looms over him, victorious for now. Okay, now he's pretty sure this isn't a dream. He notices something he hasn't seen in ages. For the first time in forever, he's bleeding. He decides to go all in, 100%. The pain clears his mind, reminding him he's alive. The beast prepares another devastating energy attack. But Derek plants his feet, ready for a counter. After decades of being trapped, he's not backing down. The monster roars, unimpressed by his defiance. It unleashes a torrent of energy, a final desperate move. Derek flies straight into the heart of the blast. He has surpassed his limits long ago. The two forces meet in a cataclysmic explosion. He screams a challenge: kill him or get out of his way. With a final push, he slices through the attack. He uses the debris as stepping stones to his target. Looks like the old Derek is back in business. And with one final strike, he finds his way out. He soars past the beast, leaving it behind in the void. He laughs, finally seeing the sun once more. After an eternity of darkness, he is finally free. But a short while earlier, in this very forest, a young boy realizes he's wandered too far from home. His panic leads to a misstep, and he tumbles down a cliff. He lands hard, bruised, and terrified. He finds himself trapped at the bottom of the ravine. And of course, he's not alone down there. The boy can only scream as the beast closes in. He scrambles backward, his foot slipping on the loose rock. The creature lunges, its claws ready to strike. He falls into the water, crying out for help. He surfaces, gasping, somehow still alive. Then he looks up and sees a strange light in the sky. A column of light and energy crashes into the water below, and from the spray emerges Derek, landing before the terrified child. The boy can't believe his luck has gotten this much worse. He just escaped a wolf, only to run into an armored demon. But a strange alert appears before Derek's eyes. An invading system has been detected, and he has no idea what it means. Suddenly, a massive purple vortex tears open the sky above. Derek is caught in its pull, dragged upward against his will. The boy can only watch in stunned silence. A powerful beam of energy erupts from the portal. His grand escape ends with him knocked unconscious on the ground. Nearby, the wounded beast shakes itself off, ready for round 2. Its glowing eyes lock onto the helpless figure. The creature slowly approaches its unmoving prey. Derek's mind drifts back to the endless void. He remembers being trapped, stripped of everything he was. His very being was stretched thin, broken into fragments. He questions if his old life was even real. Was his system, his home, all just a dream? Or was this shattered existence all he had ever known? He's jolted back to reality by the beast dragging him away. He groans, asking for 5 more minutes to sleep it off. The creature pauses, confused by its victim's lack of fear. Derek just laughs, complaining that its grip tickles. The beast roars, its patience finally worn thin. But in that instant, something in Derek's eyes snaps. With a surge of strength, he grabs the monster by its jaw. He effortlessly tosses it aside, stunning the watching boy. Derek looks around, dazed and utterly lost. Then he smiles, calling the terrifying beast a puppy. He takes in his new surroundings, a forest of wither and rot, a place where life gives way to decay. Yet, to his broken mind, it's all strangely beautiful. He casually tells his monstrous companion to quiet down. It sinks in that this strange new world is very real. He's even more shocked to find his system interface is back. But it's been completely wiped, resetting him to level 0. With his stats intact, he hopes his skills are still there. He tries to summon a familiar wave of energy, but the attack fizzles out into nothing. Apparently, spamming the skill button doesn't help either. Instead, each attempt sends a jolt of pain through his head. He recalls the error message, invading system detected. He wonders if his old system somehow merged with a new one. Lost in thought, he tries to piece together how he even got here. But the snap of a twig breaks his concentration. He and his new friend turn toward the sound. It's the boy from before, now begging for his life. Derek is utterly confused by the kid's terror. The boy tearfully asks if he's not a man-eating demon. Derek strikes a pose, asking what part of him screams demon. His monstrous companion, however, seems eager to prove the boy right. Derek quickly scolds the beast for its poor manners. He introduces himself, and the boy hesitantly gives his name, Thomas. Derek asks about the boy's level, still calling him Tommy. He learns that in this world, the system only unlocks at age 13. To activate it, one must first kill a creature. A sudden cold realization dawns on both Derek and the beast. With a grim smile, he turns to his only companion, and in one swift, brutal motion, he secures his first kill. The beast lies still, its lifeblood staining the forest floor. He explains it was a necessary evil to protect the boy, and with that, the system notifications come flooding in. He laughs, a familiar rush of power returning to him. But then, a different set of alerts catches his eye. A conflict between two systems plays out before him. He realizes the new system tried to overwrite his old one. But his original system held on, leaving him with 2. Just then, a loud grumble breaks the tense silence. Thomas looks away, clearly embarrassed by his hunger. Derek asks the obvious, and the boy eagerly agrees. A roaring fire is quickly started for their meal. Turns out his first kill is also his first dinner. He offers the boy a drink to wash it all down. The kid chugs it like he's been lost for a week. He stops, realizing his manners have completely slipped. Derek ponders how to access his dormant original system. He decides to try buying a similar skill in the new one. The system detects a conflict and begins merging the skills. The process is anything but pleasant, sending him into convulsions. He brushes it off, though the pain was clearly immense. The result is a massive, instant upgrade to his skill. He realizes his old skills might not be gone after all. They're just dormant, suppressed by the new system. He now has a path to becoming stronger than ever before. With a new plan in mind, it's time for a makeover. Nothing says trust like letting a kid give you a haircut on the move. He reminds Thomas of their deal, information for safe passage. The boy reluctantly agrees to uphold his end of the bargain. He begins to explain the rules of this strange new world. Thomas explains that people are taught to be grateful for the system, but he reveals the truth. It's a world ruled by a corrupt king. The nobles use their power to oppress the common folk. They even cheat the system to widen the gap between rich and poor. His anger builds as he recalls the injustice. It was the nobles who were responsible for the loss of his parents. A slip of the hand makes him panic, begging Derek not to harm him. Derek calmly jokes that he'll wait to see the final haircut first. He inspects the result and declares that Thomas gets to live. Phew. The next morning, the sun rises on their journey. Derek gently wakes the boy, telling him it's time to go. They finally arrive at the outskirts of a small, desolate village. Derek asks which path leads to his home. Thomas points the way, saying he's from Raina's village. But as he speaks, his eyes fix on something in the distance. Derek immediately senses the shift in the boy's demeanor. Thomas leaps from his shoulders, sprinting toward a house in terror. Derek follows, but stops short at the grim sight before him. The boy bursts through a broken door, screaming for someone named Jones. Inside, he finds the man he was looking for has already met his end. The villager lies motionless on the floor. Thomas stares in shock, his hope completely shattered. Derek places a comforting hand on the boy's shoulder. He learns the man wasn't family, just a kind old man from the village. Thomas can't understand how this happened, as the man was nearly level 30. Derek, completely unimpressed, asks if that's supposed to be strong. The boy insists that at that level, nothing in the forest could touch him. But Derek leans against the door frame, a skeptical look on his face. He then reveals that the wolf he killed earlier was level 53. Thomas is stunned into silence, refusing to believe what he's hearing. He wonders if this is all that's left of the boy's home. Elsewhere, in the depths of the forest, a strange energy stirs. A glowing green orb pulses with an unnatural power. It soon attracts the attention of a corrupted forest beast. The wolf cautiously approaches the strange source of magic. Its wounds suggest it's already been in a desperate fight for its life. It lunges, driven by instinct and hunger. But a skeletal figure erupts from the shadows to defend the orb. With a single brutal strike, it smashes the wolf to the ground. The very air seems to shudder from the display of dark power. The skeletal creature seems to relish its easy victory. How lovely. It stands revealed as a powerful lich, a master of this blighted land. But not long ago, this was a land of sunlight and peace. We see a young girl named Brandy struggling with a heavy basket. Her mother, Mallory, gently teases her about the load. Brandy proudly insists she's strong enough now that she's unlocked the system. Her mother smiles, patting the head of her clearly struggling daughter. As they walk, Mallory suggests asking her father for leather from his hunt. Brandy's eyes light up at the chance to level her leatherworking skill. Her mother adds that he might even let her help skin the animal. The girl's excitement immediately turns to absolute horror. She realizes what being a leatherworker actually entails. We flash back 2 weeks to the day she was to unlock her system. Her father, Travis, presents her with her very first monster to kill, a level 10 fluffy fox. I'm sure this won't be traumatizing at all. The deed is done, leaving the girl heartbroken and full of regret. Her mother consoles her, admitting her father could have picked a less adorable target, but their conversation is cut short by a sudden shared glance of terror. Travis bursts back into the village, wounded and shouting a warning. He tells them to run, screaming that the village is under attack. Brandy rushes to her father's side, but he cuts her off. He tells her to trust her mother, his eyes filled with grim resolve. Travis turns to face the burning village, ordering his family to flee. With a final farewell, he sends them away to safety. The entire village is engulfed in flames, a grim backdrop to their escape. Brandy asks if her father will be all right, her voice trembling. Mallory forces a smile, promising that he and the chief are strong. They meet up with other survivors, led by the village chief. The chief rallies the group, confident they can reach the next village. Mallory holds her daughter close, trying to offer a final word of comfort. But her words are cut short by a monstrous foot slamming into the earth. The chief's confident expression instantly turns to one of pure dread. A massive, corrupted beast looms over him, its eyes glowing with hate. He's immediately taken down, proving his earlier speech was a bit premature. Mallory and the others can only watch in horror as their leader falls. Brandy is frozen in place, her world collapsing around her. The victorious monster snarls, its gaze now fixed on the survivors. It prepares to lunge as Brandy cries out for her mother. Mallory shoves her daughter forward, telling her to run. With a final, desperate scream, she orders Brandy to escape. But the young girl is paralyzed by fear, unable to move a muscle. Mallory meets the beast's charge head-on, holding it back with her spear. But she's quickly overwhelmed as more creatures join the fray. Pinned to the ground, her only thought is of her daughter's safety. She resolves to hold them off just long enough for Brandy to escape. Brandy finally breaks free, running blindly through the forest with tears in her eyes. Her desperate flight ends as she collides with an armored figure. A voice from the shadows calmly asks if they need any help. It's Derek with Thomas, who yells that of course they need help. Our hero's timing is, as always, impeccable. Brandy looks up, her face stained with tears, and begs for their aid. Brandy clings to him, desperately pleading for his help. She begs him not to let her mother die. Derek calmly agrees with a simple, almost bored, "Okay." He casually flicks a finger, sending a bolt of energy forward. The blast instantly dispatches the beast attacking Mallory. She can only stare in shock as the threat completely vanishes. He turns to the others, offering them the remaining kills for experience. Mallory screams back that they don't care about experience. With a smirk, Derek decides this is going to be fun after all. The remaining corrupted wolves lunge at him as one, but his eyes are cold, focused, and ready for the fight. He crushes one beast's paw beneath his armored boot. He effortlessly leaps over another's snapping jaws. A single energy blast takes out a third from a distance. His gauntlet glows, forming claws of pure energy. He becomes a whirlwind of motion, tearing through the pack. He moves with a speed and grace they've never seen. A final brutal strike ends the last of the creatures. He lands, surrounded by crackling blue light, the battle over. He stands over the fallen beasts, complaining it wasn't fun at all. He's unimpressed, noting how pathetically weak the wolves were. Brandy rushes to her mother, and they embrace in relief. Mallory comforts her, promising her father is strong. But she knows her husband is nothing compared to this stranger. She thanks Derek, but demands to know who he is. He just says he's taking Thomas home and they can tag along. Thomas tries to remind him about their destroyed village. But Derek coldly states he only promised to escort the boy. He adds that their village is likely already gone anyway. What a great motivational speaker. A villager asks what's wrong with the forest, mentioning the Grace Falls. Derek dismisses the question with a simple, uninterested no. Thomas desperately pulls on his arm, pleading for them to go back. But Derek corrects him, stating it won't be we doing the fighting. He makes it clear that if anyone is going to help, it will be him alone. He reminds the boy of their contract, which didn't include saving strangers. He asks Thomas if he knows the secret to his survival. A dark memory flashes by as he explains he only ever relies on himself. He's learned the hard way not to go out of his way to be a hero. Every tragedy in his life came from sticking his nose where it didn't belong. Thomas can only grit his teeth in frustration. He yells back that with Derek's power, he has a duty to help. Derek just scoffs at the boy's naive sense of justice. Thomas resorts to futilely punching his armor, getting absolutely nowhere. He finally breaks down, screaming that Derek is just being a selfish jerk. As the villagers watch, Derek calmly agrees with the assessment. He explains that in a world where heroes die, it pays to be selfish. He effortlessly catches the boy's fist, ending the tantrum. He tells Thomas to get strong first, then he can play the hero. The boy glares back, his spirit not yet broken. Derek's expression softens as he ruffles the kid's hair. He then surprises everyone by lifting Thomas onto his shoulders. The boy is stunned, asking what on earth he's doing. With a new resolve, Derek declares they're going to save the village. Thomas is left speechless by the sudden change of heart. He stands amidst the embers, his world turned upside down once again. Meanwhile, Brandy's father, Travis, faces a monstrous, corrupted bear. He plants his spear, his eyes glowing as he prepares for battle. The beast roars, its own eyes burning with corrupted energy. Travis meets its charge head-on, a shockwave erupting from the impact. He holds his ground, a lone defender against overwhelming power. Derek leads Thomas through the smoldering ruins of the village. He wanted the boy to see the grim reality of this world firsthand, a harsh lesson on what happens when you aren't strong enough. This was never a rescue mission, it was a recovery. Suddenly, Derek holds the boy back, sensing something ahead. A faint groan echoes from beneath the rubble of a collapsed building. His eyes narrow, focusing on the source of the sound. A survivor, the village chief, struggles to free himself from the debris. Thomas immediately sprints forward, ignoring Derek's warning. The chief is shocked to see him, warning him of the danger. But his gaze falls on the body of Brandy's fallen father. He laments that the man fought bravely, but his wounds are fatal. In fact, it seems no one from the village will survive. The chief desperately asks for a healer, knowing it's a futile hope. Derek considers his options, recalling a rare potion he possesses, but his cynical nature takes over. He refuses to play the hero. He won't save the man, but he can offer something else. He steps away, giving the family a moment for their goodbyes. Mallory can only watch in utter disbelief and sorrow. She clings to her husband, pleading for him to stay with them. With his last strength, Travis reaches for his daughter. He tells her to be strong and that he loves her. And with that, the light fades from his eyes forever. Brandy is left kneeling in the dust, her world shattered. Her mother's grief-stricken cry echoes through the ruins. Sometime later, they've left the burning village behind them. Derek states the obvious. It's time to get moving. But Thomas is still reeling from the loss he just witnessed. Derek offers some questionable comfort, telling him he'll get used to it. The chief grabs his arm, furious at his callous words. He demands to know who Derek is and what he wants. The chief questions why he should trust Thomas with a complete stranger. Derek remains silent, his expression cold and unbothered. But Thomas steps forward, surprisingly taking Derek's side. He explains that he understands loss all too well. He admits he's almost jealous they got to say goodbye. A memory shows a much younger Thomas, waiting for parents who would never return. The small group of survivors continues their journey away from the ruins. Derek decides it's a good time to check his system notifications. He sees he's reached level 10 and can now choose a class. But as he scrolls through the options, his eyes widen in shock. These choices are far more powerful than anything he expected. The first is Shadow Brawler, a rare and deadly class. Next is Chaos Glaive, an epic class of pure destruction. Then Eternal Guardian, another epic class born from flame. Talk about analysis paralysis. He struggles to decide, peeking at the list of incredible powers. But then he stops, his breath catching in his throat. He looks back at the chief, a cold sweat breaking out. He trembles, staring at a final hidden option on the screen. Champion of the Void, an epic class born from his own personal hell. The description says he can never be trapped there again, for he is now a part of it. He recalls the endless expanse, the unrelenting hunger of his prison. It was not an ally or a teacher, but a brutal, unforgiving master. The memory of his own mind shattering echoes within him. The void had beaten him, broken him, and consumed him entirely. But in return for his suffering, it offered him absolute control. He wasn't just its prisoner, he was its chosen champion. With a surge of purple energy, he accepts his new fate. The power explodes from him as the chief, Leon, pulls Thomas back. They can only watch as Derek is consumed by the chaotic energy of the void. He answers the void's call, embracing his new power. A pillar of purple energy erupts, tearing through the sky. Leon shields Thomas, praying for salvation from the chaos. The energy subsides, revealing a changed Derek, now its master. He marvels at the incredible power now flowing through him. The beam of light serves as a beacon of his transformation. Thomas and Leon can only stare, unable to believe their eyes. Elsewhere, the survivors are startled by the sudden disturbance. The energy slams back to Earth, leveling what little remains. Derek looks up, realizing his new class came with a +1. From the energy, a monstrous void beast begins to form. He can't help but be impressed by the dramatic entrance. Leon turns to Thomas, demanding to know where he found this man. Mallory and Brandy can only watch, lost and confused. Derek is ecstatic, realizing he gets his very own summon. The beast crashes down, its sheer presence shaking the ground. He decides to name it Asher, which seems to get a reaction. He notes it's a bit smaller than the last one he fought, but it'll do. The others watch in terror, questioning Derek's sanity. But Leon realizes with dawning horror that Derek can control it. He immediately tries to teach his new pet to sit. Good luck with that. The beast responds by slamming him violently into the ground. The impact sends a shockwave across the ruined landscape. Thomas screams his name as Leon holds him back from the fray. But an armored hand rises from the dust, stopping the attack cold. Derek emerges, fully armored, and informs his pet their time together is over. Asher roars back, ready to challenge its new master. Bleeding but determined, Derek orders the others to flee. He summons a blade of pure energy as they run for safety. His skill fails to identify the beast, confirming it's not from this world. He recalls the last beast, realizing this one is on a whole other level. With no room for error, he rockets forward in a blur of purple energy. He dives toward his new pet, ready to teach it some obedience. The beast lunges with snapping jaws, meeting his charge with pure aggression. Derek counters with a blast of energy, holding the monster at bay, but he's stunned when it blocks the attack with nothing but its palm. The creature's sheer power forces him onto the back foot. Asher unleashes a devastating beam of concentrated void energy. The blast sends him flying, the force of it catching him completely off guard. He can't comprehend how something so massive can move so fast. Before he can recover, the beast is already preparing another attack. The beam carves a massive trench in the earth where he stood moments before. The impact rattles him to his core, the taste of blood now familiar. He collapses to the ground, completely outmatched by his own summon. He briefly considers playing dead, hoping it'll just get bored and leave. Yeah, that's not happening. The beast begins a relentless, brutal assault. A system alert flashes as his health plummets into the danger zone. He activates his meditation skill, desperately trying to find an opening. With a surge of adrenaline, he pushes back, his blade glowing with power. But Asher simply catches the weapon in its teeth and shatters it. It swats him aside like an insect, his health dropping with every blow. Each strike is a hammer blow, pushing him closer and closer to the edge. From the sidelines, Thomas can only watch in tears as his protector is broken. Leon urges the others to flee, knowing there's nothing they can do to help. Asher gathers energy for a final, decisive strike. Derek can only watch, knowing he's too slow to dodge this one. He realizes his regeneration skills can't possibly keep up with the damage. His health bar drains away, ticking down toward his inevitable end. The pressure becomes unbearable, his armor beginning to crack and shatter. But through the pain and chaos, his eyes lock onto a single point of focus. He dumps his points into a new skill, triggering a system merge. The process is excruciating, a scream tearing from his throat. But it allows him to dodge Asher's devastating ground slam. The merge is a success, instantly maxing out his new skill. His pet does not seem pleased by this sudden turn of events. With his weapon mastery upgraded, the very ground cracks with his power. He's back in the fight, now a blur of blue and purple energy. Derek soars through the air, a new spear of light in his hands. His eyes glow with renewed focus, the pain forgotten. He meets the beast's claws head-on, a desperate struggle for dominance. He pushes forward, pouring every ounce of strength into the attack. But his blade stops dead, unable to pierce the monster's hide. He realizes the void is simply nullifying his power. How rude. So he decides it's time to fight void with void. He channels the very essence of his prison into his weapon. The two forces collide, master and summon, in a final brutal contest. The resulting blast tears through Asher's defenses. Derek is thrown back by the sheer force of his own attack. He lands perfectly, the battle finally at its end. With a weary breath, he admits that was actually fun. He stands victorious over his fallen pet as the sun begins to set. The system rewards him handsomely for taming his new friend. Elsewhere, a knock echoes in a lavishly decorated room. An attendant enters bearing urgent news for his mistress. A report from the crown details a void beast's energy signature. A red-haired woman finds the news of a dimensional monster. Interesting. With a cold expression, she gives a simple order. Send a hunter. Meanwhile, the weary villagers continue their trek through the forest. A woman looks back, her eyes widening in disbelief. Leon and the children have returned, battered but alive. The survivors reunite, their relief quickly turning to questions. But Leon can't bring himself to speak the grim truth. He clenches his jaw, the weight of his failure crushing him. A single tear escapes, a silent testament to their losses. Derek steps forward, delivering the harsh reality of their situation. The remaining villagers can only stare in stunned silence. Leon stands over the fallen, blaming himself for their fate. But Thomas sprints past, his eyes fixed on a familiar face. He throws his arms around Derek, relieved his protector is alive. The boy quickly pulls back, flustered but undeniably happy. Derek then turns to Mallory and Brandy, his tone softening. He reveals he saved her husband's body for a proper burial. Mallory is stunned by this unexpected act of kindness. She offers a heartfelt thank you, a small light in her grief. He simply nods, his stoic mask firmly back in place. That night, the survivors make camp under a full moon. They're warned to stay close to the fire as the forest is not safe. Leon keeps watch, the weight of leadership heavy on his shoulders. His eyes burn with a quiet, grim determination. Nearby, Thomas finally asks the question on everyone's mind. Derek downplays the fight, claiming the beast just got bored and left. Thomas finds this hard to believe, given the terrifying legends. But the reality of the battle was far more intense. Mallory backs the boy up, noting such a feat is unheard of. Derek just shrugs it off, suggesting he got lucky with a weak summon. He vows not to use that skill again, a clear understatement of the cost. He dismisses the legends as overrated, much to the others' disbelief. The next morning, Mallory rallies the survivors to continue their journey. With the sun rising, they set off toward the next village. But a small hand tugs on his, breaking his concentration. It's Brandy, who